Welcome back, Green Ground community. Today, we're sailing the turbulent waters of global events, and I promise you a journey both thoughtful and, in typical Alvin fashion, a little stylish. So settle in, because the world has been anything but calm, so let's ride these waves together. Let's start with something that's caught everyone's attention: the high-profile interception by the Israeli Defense Forces of a boat carrying none other than Greta Thunberg and a crew of activists. Now, if you followed the news even just a little, you know Greta is a name that hardly ever stays out of the spotlight for long. This time, she stepped into the eye of one of the world's most persistent storms, the conflict and humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The boat, packed with humanitarian supplies, baby formula, food, medical necessities, was attempting to break the naval blockade and deliver aid to Gaza. Israel, though, made it quite clear that this boat would not reach its destination. They described their actions as ensuring the ship was brought safely to Israeli shores, and that any aid on board would eventually make its way to Gaza, but through approved channels. The activists, meanwhile, have labeled the boarding as a kidnapping and condemned the confiscation of their cargo. There's symbolism here, isn't there? The effort to bring attention to Gaza's plight, the determination of these activists, and the iron grip of long-standing blockades. It's a reminder of how complex and emotionally charged the situation remains, and how much power, on all sides, is tied up in these acts of both protest and control. Whatever your stance, it's hard not to see this as a snapshot of our times, where every humanitarian gesture is also a political statement, and every blockade is both a defense and a point of contention. Now, while we're talking about contention, let's turn to Ukraine, where the situation has once again escalated. Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, found itself under a heavy drone and missile attack from Russia. Lives were lost, people were injured, and the city's resilience is being tested daily. There's a grimness to this news, a reminder that despite international attention and ongoing diplomatic efforts, the war grinds on. Recently, the conflict was compared by a certain former US president to children fighting, a remark that landed with a thud in many circles given the scale of suffering and the stakes involved. The reality, though, is anything but childish. Towns are destroyed, families are shattered, and the world watches, often feeling powerless. There's a tragic inevitability to these headlines, but also a call to remember the human stories behind them. For every statistic, there are people, parents, children, friends, neighbors, whose lives are forever changed. Meanwhile, far from the icy plains of Eastern Europe, another story of violence and instability unfolded in Colombia. Miguel Uribe, a conservative presidential candidate, was critically injured in an assassination attempt. This is the kind of news that hits hard because it undermines the very foundation of democracy, the right to stand for office without fear of violence. Colombia has seen its share of political instability, but every new incident like this raises fresh questions about safety, transparency, and the kind of future the country wants. It's a stark reminder that political struggles are not always just about ideas. Sometimes they are literal battles for survival. For those who care about democracy and peace, stories like this resonate far beyond Colombia's borders. Let's switch gears to something a bit less harrowing, but no less important for the people it affects. The UK government has reversed a policy that would have limited home heating subsidies for retirees. Now, if you've ever experienced a British winter, you know how brutal it can be, especially if you're older or vulnerable. The original policy drew widespread criticism, with many arguing that it would leave pensioners shivering in their own homes. Thankfully, public outcry worked, and the government listened. It's a small victory, perhaps, in the grand scheme of things, but it's also a reminder that sometimes collective voices can make a difference. For the elderly in the UK, this change means warmth, comfort, and a bit more dignity when they need it most. It's the kind of story that quietly restores a little faith in the system, even if just for a moment. Now, let's hop over to Japan, where the Osaka Expo 2025 is in full swing. Or, at least it was until a problem popped up with the water shows. Organizers had to suspend these popular attractions after tests revealed bacterial contamination. It's a sensible, if disappointing, decision. Nothing ruins an event like a health scare. But it's also a reminder of how crucial health and safety standards are, especially in the age of global pandemics. The expo teams are working hard to resolve the issue, and visitors are being kept safe in the meantime. Sometimes the best events are the ones that know when to pause, take stock, and reassess. Here's hoping the water shows return soon, with all the safety protocols in place. And finally, let's talk about Iran's involvement in ongoing hostage negotiations in Gaza. This isn't just a footnote, it's a sign of how layered, how intricate the web of diplomacy really is. When former President Trump mentioned Iran's role in these talks, it put a spotlight on just how many moving parts there are in this region. Every country, every group, Every leader has a stake, and the path to peace, or even just dialogue, is anything but straightforward. It's the kind of story that reminds us how much is happening behind the scenes, out of public view, and how every little development can ripple outward in unexpected ways. So friends, that's today's Global Roundup. From the high seas off Gaza, to the skies over Ukraine, to the political stages in Colombia, and the halls of power in the UK and Japan, we've seen courage, tragedy, resilience, and even a little hope. As always, the world moves fast, but here at Green Ground, we take the time to reflect, to analyze, and to connect with you, our amazing community. If you enjoyed today's monologue, please give it a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another update. There's always more to discover in the description, including links to further reading and related stories. And as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts. How did today's news make you feel? What stories caught your attention? Drop your reflections in the comments. Your voice matters here at Green Ground. Until next time, stay curious, stay stylish, and let's keep the conversation going.